All right, welcome to day 10 of the school year. Okay, our fraction to begin with is our denominator is the total amount of school days, which is 180, and we are on day 10. So we want to look at that numerator of 10 and ask, is it prime or composite? Well, 10 is not circled, so it is composite. Also, the only even number that's prime is 2, so any other even number will be composite. Since it's composite, that means we're going to need to do the prime factorization of both the numerator and the denominator, not just the denominator. Our prime factorization, we're using upside down division. And we're going to use our prime numbers. Our first 5 are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. Okay, let's see. I'm going to start with just my evens because it ends in an even number. Can't do half of 1, but I can do half of 18, which is 9, and then I have my placeholder. Okay, this I can divide by 3 because 9 plus 0 is 9, and 9 is a multiple of 3. I can get 3 groups of 3 out of 9, and then I have my placeholder. I can get another group of 3, 3 times 10. I keep doing this until I get a prime number down here. Okay. This is even, so I can divide by 2, cut it in half. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 is prime, so we're done with that prime factorization. So our prime factorization for our denominator is 2 times 2. Remember, we always want to go least to greatest. Times 3 times 3 times 5. Okay, now for our numerator. Well, it's even, so I can divide by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 is prime, so we're done there. So our prime factorization for our numerator is 2 times 5. Well, let's see what we have in common in both the denominator and the numerator. Well, we have a 2 here, and we have a 5. So our numerator will be a 1 when we're done, and then 2 times 3 times 3, 2 times 3 is 6, times 3 is 18. We should get an 18 in the denominator. But our greatest common factor is that 2 times 5, which is 10. 10 is our greatest common factor, so let's go ahead and make groups of 10 in our model. Doesn't matter what your groups of 10 look like. Just make sure there's 10 in each group, and you do not have the shaded in with the unshaded. Now, since I know each row has 10 squares, I don't need to count them. I can use my logic and reasoning to make my groups of 10. Okay, we got to use those standards of mathematical practice. Here we're doing a few of them because we're using a model and we're using logic and reasoning and patterns. So a lot going on here. Okay, I've got all my groups of 10, so let's count them up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 total groups, and 1 group of 10 shaded in. Okay, let's go ahead and prove it with our algorithm, because we always want to try to prove it in as many ways as we can to see if we come up with the same answer. We're going to divide by our greatest common factor, and it always stays the same because the whole thing was put into groups of 10 and the shaded area was put into groups of 10, so these will always be the same. Okay, so let's do our area model. If you're not sure how much room you need, you can just start off with this. Let's see, 10 times 10 gives me 100. Numbers the same, zero's a game, more on top, no need to stop. Numbers the same, zero's a game. Okay, so we take our 80 up here. And 8 times 10 is 80. Numbers the same, zeros a gain. So we're done there. Add our partial quotients, we get 18. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at our numerator. 10 divided by 10. Well, 10 times 1 is 10. Numbers the same, zeros a gain. So our quotient is 1. Now we always want to check with our inverse operation. Divisor times quotient plus remainder. But since our remainder is 0, the identity property of addition says it's going to stay the same. So I can just do the 10 times 18, and here 10 times 1. Okay, here, this placeholder just moves everything over a place. 1 times 8 is 8, 1 times 1 is 1. So it moved the 1 from the tens place to the hundreds, and the 8 from the ones place to the tens, and then just put the placeholder in the ones. Every place is 10 times greater to the left than to the right. Okay, and then here we actually end up with the identity property of multiplication. 10 times 1 is 10, because anything multiplied by 1 will stay the same. 180 matches our dividend up here, so that checks. And 10 matches our dividend up here, so that checks. So our numerator is definitely 1, and our denominator is definitely 18. Okay, now let's go ahead and fill in our data collection page. Okay, still in trimester 1, week 3, today's date, 8/21/19, and our fraction for today is 1/18. Let's get out our number line. This time we did groups of 10. Let's go all the way over here. And this is our 1/18. Make sure it's right under the line. And we have an equivalent fraction in the 5s, because that is also a common factor. There's 2 as a common factor, so there's an equivalent fraction there. Then here, 10 out of 180, those equivalent fractions, but this is the one in lowest term because this is our greatest common factor. All right, let's go ahead and put our number line away, erase worksheet, and thank you for joining me.